Let's get the party started, baby.
Ever since my eyes met the world, I was breaking through the chains like a match to a flame. I was born against the grain. Oh, oh. They say I'm broken in the brain, got a shot of kerosene in my veins. But hey, 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 they better be concerned now, cause it's my turn, and I'm only getting hotter. Take a step back or you might get burned, cause I'm a fire starter. From the trenches and the fumes, got defiance in my bones to the soles of my shoes. And oh, I got a thirst for breaking the rules. You can try me, but I got a short fuse. But hey, 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 they better be concerned now, cause it's my turn, and I'm only getting hotter. Take a step back or you might get burned, cause I'm a fire starter. Ever since my eyes met the world, born against the brain. Take a step back or you might get burned, cause I'm a fire starter. I'm a fire starter. Look out for my flames, baby, cause I'm dangerous. I am a fire starter.
What's up, guys? What's up this fine Sunday evening? I see you guys are all piling in the house. I'm glad you all come. So today we're going to talk a little bit about we're going to talk a little bit on a subject that I've been talking to the mad scientist about, and that's well, it's more complicated than this, but the primary thing we're going to talk about is ports and what exactly a port does, how it does what it does, and what are some of the shortcomings, some of the negatives and positives of a ported enclosure. And when I say ported enclosure, that description includes both regular ported enclosures and like sixth orders, parallel, and series, so forth and so on. Anything that uses a port to enhance something is going to fall into the category of a ported enclosure. Um, so, first of all, to get this out of the way in the very beginning, how does a port work? Well, as you know, on your subwoofer, you have two faces to the cone that is moving in and out of the enclosure. Well, the front face is playing a frequency that is coming into your listening area. It's providing the bass or whatever frequency. You can port anything you want. It isn't just subwoofers that can port it. You can port a mid if you want to. But the speaker is playing in there, and then also on the back, it's moving air. It's creating a sound wave inside the enclosure. Well, that sound wave can't get out of the enclosure, and a port does not let the sound wave out of the enclosure either. But it does utilize the characteristics of that sound wave. And the way it does that is the port being a specific length and a specific area, okay, whenever the air is moving in that port, moving back and forth, if the port is long enough, okay, the air wave that's in there will stay in the port. The shorter the port is, the more that air wave wants to come out, and only fast moving air waves will stay in the port. So if it's a long port, a slow, big frequency can stay in the port and move in and out like this without actually leaving the port. If the port is shorter, only a high frequency airwave can stay inside that port. Now, why do you want that inside the port? What happens is if you create a plug of air in the port that is moving in and out but doesn't actually leave the port on either end, it just stays stuck in the port, wiggling, okay? That plug of air acts like a little subwoofer. It acts the same way as the cone of your driver does. Now, that said, there are some caveats to that. If you make the area larger, it's going to take more air to officially plug that port. If you make the area smaller, it takes less air to plug the port. You're still moving the same frequency in and out, but the amount of hole you have, the area of the port, is dictated by how much volume of air you're able to put in that port and move back and forth. So the more subwoofers you have, the larger the area has to be. These are the basic functions of a port and how different perimeters are going to affect what size and shape it is. Also, something interesting happens at the ends of the tuning. So at the point to where the port is too small for the wave that's going through, in other words, when you go below the port tuning far enough to where most of the air is not getting trapped in the port now, it's blowing out on either end, you have done what we call unloading the port or unloading the sub. At that point, well, you technically unloaded the port. If the airspace in the box is now compromised, there's no longer a plug in that port. Now the subwoofer itself becomes unloaded. And so it's going to move a lot more than it should. And it's not going to have any suspension, any air suspension to restrict its movement, and it's going to be real floppy, right? Also, on the same note, if you play a frequency that's very high, you can also unload as well. The difference is the subwoofer is not subjected to any damage by being unloaded on the high end. It's just moving too fast. So it's not a problem that we ever get to really worry about. But what does happen is you'll notice that the frequency, the SPL, or the sound pressure, or the power of that frequency is going to drop off hard at the end of that port's playing ability. So down at the bottom, I'll have a real sharp hump that comes up really quick, right? Where your port, let's see how I did this say, yeah, where your port's coming online quickly, and then it's going to top out and run across, and then it's going to drop hard again. Whereas on a sealed enclosure, it won't go near as high, but it's going to be more of a steady increase, steady across the spectrum. Because the sealed enclosure never gains any efficiency specifically in any area. It's going to be very consistent. It's not going to play that super low frequency as well because it doesn't have the boost of the port. But it will be more stable. So the other shortcomings of a port. One shortcoming is you've got a bandwidth which the port can operate in. And anything below or above that bandwidth tends to just kind of fall off, right? That's one shortcoming, which is why you wouldn't want to necessarily use it on a tweeter. I guess you could, though. Another one is what happens. So the group delay. Okay. So the port, again, the port is getting its power, its motor energy from the back of the subwoofer, so that the sound coming out of the subwoofer, we'll call it positive sound, because it's, let's say it's positively, how do I want to put this? Let's say on a drum beat, okay, the initial of the drum beat, the sub moves forward. We'll just go with that. And then a second later, or a 30th of a second later, it goes back. Well, at the same time that's happening, the air inside that's powering that port will actually go backwards, you see, because now the sub is going to move forward and that port's going to go backwards. And then when the sub moves backwards, the port comes back forwards again. This is the initial part of the hit, which is why the hit itself isn't as snappy, is because that very first pulse is going to get neutralized by the port. Now, as soon as the sub comes back in again, they're going to both be in sync and they're going to play. They're also going to stop out of time as well. This is why a ported enclosure tends to sound softer and not as impactful, not as crisp as a sealed enclosure does. And that group delay it takes for the port to stop after the sub stops, and the time it takes for the port to start after the sub starts, is what makes it sound softer. This isn't always a problem. In most cases, it's not. It depends on what kind of music you're listening to and what you're going for. But they do have their problems. In fact, whenever the port unloads, this is something that we were talking about last night. When the port unloads and it's no longer playing in its tuning, the sound coming out of that port will literally be 180 degrees out of phase with the sound coming out of the speaker. And if you've ever played one speaker hooked up one way and then flipped the wires on another sub and had them both playing at the same time, you know that makes them both go really quiet. They're not quite silent, but they definitely substantially drop volume. And that's why that curve drops off at the end of the port's tuning, because it's canceling itself. It isn't turning into a sealed enclosure and just dropping off gradually all of a sudden. No, it's literally got something coming out that's fighting it so that it goes from powerful to nothing very quickly. Let's go back here and look in the chat and see what you guys are talking about today. I know I've been going on and on and on for a bit. I'm going to catch up on this. And let's see. Oh, yeah, we're going on. We've got some stuff going on. Bobby said, yo. And J-Dog's in the house. White Rambo's in the house. What's up, man? Franco Quade's in the house. Rick Ross. What's up, Rick? Rick Ross is in the house. Ola is in the house. What's up, man? Corn Nut. El Fuego is here from the Pacific Northwest. El Fuego is always in the house. Jason WW2000 is in the house. Bobby B, Corn Nut, everybody is here. So we're going to talk a little bit. Let's go back and look. Oh, they're talking about my damn hair. El Fuego says CAE's hair is growing faster than my new build's budget. I got good hair growth. I have a receding hairline, but it's not terrible. It's not terrible, so we're getting it done. Cornut said a low tuning can sound pretty stable. You still have to deal with cabin gain, though. Yeah, agreed. Cabin gain is another element, but that doesn't apply to ports specifically. That applies to the subwoofer in general. You're going to experience cabin gain or the cabin altering the output, no matter what kind of subwoofer enclosure you're running. Let's see here. But yes, Jason, WWW2000. And WWW2000 group delay is something I have trouble understanding. Well, it's a multiple different. It's a lot of different things. Group delay is like saying, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Distortion. Group delay. Saying group delay is also like saying distortion. Distortion, it covers a tremendous amount of area. Like all kinds of things can be considered distortion. Well, a lot of stuff can be considered group delay too. It's not a simple, easy to understand thing. In some cases, it's usually reflections. So, like if your mids and tweeters are having a reflection off of a surface immediately there in the beginning, that can be a group delay. If you've got a tweeter that's mounted slightly forward of your mid, that can be a group delay kind of a situation because you'll have tweeter sounds and mid sounds that are both together in the same frequency range hitting your ear at two different times. That can be considered group delay. Um, but what we're talking about is the subwoofer and the port, the group of those two things coming together having a delay or having a mistimed event. Um, you know, that's what we're referring to. And hopefully with that little bit of information I gave you earlier and what I just said, maybe that will snap something into place. I find that I put a lot of information in my head and it doesn't always line up together. And I'll have this chunk over here and this chunk over here and this subject and that subject and this subject and that subject. It'll all be there and it'll all kind of make sense. And then one day I'll get one little tiny key that'll fit in there somewhere and I'll snap them all into one place and they'll all work together to give me a concept. And it's like the light bulb going off. Uh, it's a great experience whenever your brain snaps everything into place after having absorbed so much stuff and it not quite making sense. That one key piece of information that makes it all come together is a beautiful thing. Uh, but yeah, that's basically what we're talking about in this particular situation. Uh, and hello, Ken Naylor. How are you, sir? Michael Smith said, "Yo, just got off work. We'd be jamming, baby." Um, let's see. Good stuff, man. Working on the Sunday. I just got done eating pork chops, man, because, pork chops. And that shit was on fire, man. I got good pork chop recipe I taught my wife many years ago, and she nails it every freaking Sunday that we have pork chops anyway. We have them most Sundays, most weekends. Jason said the right sub on the right amp in a ported box can be very snappy and tight sounding. Yeah, sure. It's easier to get the sound in the sealed box, and the sub and amp doesn't matter as much. Theorizing. Um, yes. The right sub and the right box and the right everything will be very snappy, can be very crisp, but it's just a completely different level of sound whenever you're dealing with a sealed enclosure. And anybody out there, I don't care what bandwagon you're on when it comes to what the best enclosure is. I think every single person will agree that it don't matter what sub you put in a sealed enclosure, it's just going to sound better than a ported enclosure. Always is. Whether you can get a ported enclosure to sound good enough and still get the benefits of the efficiency of a ported enclosure, that's another story. But as far as just you could put a crappy sub in a sealed enclosure and it's just going to sound good. It's always going to sound good. It's so easy to get a good sounding sealed enclosure because it just naturally works. And there's something interesting you guys may not know that the ported enclosure was actually first. The sealed enclosure came along years after the ported enclosure did. For whatever reason, the OG enclosure was an open back enclosure. You've seen the bass amplifiers and guitar amplifiers and things like that, how they have that chunk missing out of the back. Well, that's how the very first speaker was put in an enclosure, was with a chunk missing out of the back. And that's how guitar amplifiers and stuff still are today. A lot of times, open back or half back, quarterback. the sealed enclosure was something that people thought was ridiculous and should never happen. Um, but it turns out that it works pretty damn good. Big Mac and fries. Franco Quay said he just had some Big Mac. I like a good Big Mac. I'm not a fan of McDonald's. I don't like McDonald's. But I like a properly made Big Mac. I like the flavor, the combined flavor of the dehydrated onions, um, and the meat, all beef, two all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, and onions on a sesame seed bun. Yeah, um, I dig the onions and pickles together with that Big Mac sauce, the right amount of everything, and the original amount of beef they used to use. I think it's a great sandwich. It's what made McDonald's. The McDonald's could not have existed worth anything without the Big Mac. It would have never worked. It was a great sandwich. It still is. I concur. Uh, I usually get the double quarter cheese. That's a tip. Pro tip: go to McDonald's, order a double quarter cheese burger, and tell them to make it like a Big Mac, and that should be on fire. So if you have two subs in a divided box, each with their own port, there is no group delay. There will be no group delay between the subs and the ports, but there's still a group delay between each sub and its port. The sub and the port are one cycle out of phase from each other. Okay, that's where the group delay comes from. The port is one wave behind the speaker, and that's where that softness comes in. It happens on both ends. Um, so yeah, if you want, if I mean honestly, if you're wanting extreme SQ, you may not have you can put a port on the low sub, but on your high sub, your one that you want to really present in the front stage, having it sealed or infinite baffle is better. So this is why everybody wants to go infinite baffle for SQ. Infinite baffle gives you all the benefits of a sealed enclosure, meaning it's clean and crisp, but it also gives you the benefits of a ported enclosure with that low end extension that the sealed enclosure doesn't have. So an infinite baffle is honestly the best of all the worlds as far as sound quality and efficiency goes. It really gives you so much of all of it. But it's not always convenient to have a speaker that's open to the world on the backside. There is that. Let's see here. You agree? Let's see here. Let me make sure I'm on the same page. Yeah, Franco Quaid said, yeah. Raymond said, I agree. Corn nut, I'm all about ported. It's my recommendation. 90% of the time, my current build is one seal. Yeah. You understand the differences and why. And if you get the right sub in the right size box, man, like one of the JL TW3s or TW5s, and like 3/4 of a foot cubic airspace with a good rigid sealed enclosure, it's just going to sound so deliciously good. And they'll play low in that tiny little sealed box. That's why everybody that asks me what should you recommend for a truck, for a pickup truck, or for a car with a very, very small amount of space that I can put a sub in, that's easy. JL Stealth Box with a TW5 or a TW3 in it. It's an easy win every single time sub enclosure solution. There's just nothing out there that's better. It's expensive, but there's nothing out there that's better. It's one thing that JL has always done the best and still does do the best is make a flat sub, a very tiny, thin sub that can play ridiculously smooth and flat in its reproduction across the board, better than anybody else has ever done. They just do it best. I know it sucks. If you're not a JL person, you hate it, but just listen to one sometime. All I got to tell you is just put one in a car and listen to it. You'll get it. It ends the discussion. There's no more talk. Um, what happened? Here we go. Raymond said all my boxes I had was sealed and clean, booming. Yeah, yeah. I had a hell loud system in my S10, and it was two JL 15W3s in a relatively small sealed enclosure, and that shit slammed, dude. It slammed hard. Uh, Fuego, good question. Oh yeah. I agree. Very good question. But yeah, he said, no, it's the same group relay. That's true. It's just double the same situation, but two times. Um, the Hopper is in the house. What's up, Hopper man? He's hopping. He's hopping out there on the west side somewhere, out in New Mexico or California or Arizona or somewhere. Fuego said, thanks. No problem, man. Um, Jason said, WW 2000, let's see here. My new SQ system will be 312s and a ported box, and I have the option to plug the ports. Then it's an oversized sealed box. I'm going to experiment with that, see which I prefer. My suggestion is um, set everything up for your sealed box or for your ported box, right? And then when you seal it, go in there and depending on how big your box is, you may need to go into your DSP and boost like 20 hertz, 25 hertz, something like that. Boost it by about towards being an infinite baffle. It's not there yet. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not an IB. If you put a sub in an IB and you let it go, let it rip, um, you'll figure out real fast, just like why IB is so popular because it gets the lows. It eats the lows hard. It takes very little power to get a sub moving in an IB, and it just sucks up the lows. Let's see here. Raymond said all subs can be used in that configuration. Yes, configuration. Trying to make sure I understand your question. Yeah, and an infinite baffle. Yeah, all subs can be used in an infinite baffle. Not all subs do well in an infinite baffle. Some do very poorly in an infinite baffle. What you want, basically, the main thing you're looking for a good infinite baffle sub is a sub with a QTS of around 0.707. Um, A sub that's designed for a ported enclosure tends to do a little bit better generally because it'll have a QTS, a lower QTS, and that works better for ported enclosures. Higher QTS than 0.707 works better in a sealed enclosure. So something around a 6, 5 or a 6 is going to work well in the infinite baffle. Just remember that also, whenever you put a sub in an infinite baffle, just cut the power handling in half. You probably won't even run that much power on it, but you're not going to lose volume because it's going to get loud much quicker on much less power. But don't expect it to a 2,000 watt RMS sub to handle 2,000 watts RMS in an infinite baffle. Feed it 500 watts, 500, 700. It's going to do real well at that. Ken said, what can cause subs to be out of phase and noticeable on certain frequencies? Well, if you've got two subs in two different enclosures, like one small chamber, one large chamber, or if they're hooked up, one of them's hooked up backwards, or that definitely will do it. Having the same sub in a small enclosure and another of the same exact sub in a large enclosure can cause them to be out of phase in certain areas because it'll cause them to be phased out slightly. They won't completely invert phase, but they can be slightly out of phase because one has a tighter suspension than the other. Having two subs in the same enclosure, but one of them is playing into a corner real weird, or maybe the port is right behind that sub and it causes it to load differently than the other one, could cause them to have a slight phasing issue. That happens a lot in big builds with lots of subwoofers. That actually happens a lot. How they load, that can be loading weird. So yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff, and it would be on certain frequencies. It wouldn't be on all frequencies. But if you're judging this based off of a camera or off of a video that you've taken of the subs, more than likely it's the camera, the shutter speed of the camera causing the issue, or the frame rate of the camera. The way the camera draws, the way it records an image is like, okay, for example, this is not going to look right because I'm all backwards and everything, but it starts drawing the image and it draws it in lines, like you're reading in a book. So it records the image up here first, and then when it gets done drawing it all, it goes to the very bottom of the other side and it records that last. So whenever you're playing that back, it'll actually have a wave to it. And if you have one sub up here and one sub down here, this sub will look like it's out of phase with this sub because of the way that was recorded. So don't take a video and use that to interpret the frequencies because of that phase, because it's definitely going to lie to you. It will lie to you every single time. El Fuego said, I have two JL10 TW3s in a small cell box. Sound fantastic on 500 watt RMS. Yeah, it's exactly what they're rated for. And absolutely. I've had the 3s and I've had the TW3s and the TW5s. And I'm going to tell you, man, there's just not a better sounding small subwoofer. Not anywhere by anybody at any price. There is not one. Bobby said, lost him. I don't know, who did I lose? By the way, you guys slam that like button. Come on, man. Give me some likes. Hit that thumb. Oh, you lost me. Well, shit. Am I back yet? Let's see. Am I back? Am I here? Okay. Apparently I'm back. I don't know, man. The internet's been kind of wonky today, so I do apologize if we have issues. I had to refresh this thing earlier, and it took like 5 minutes for the page to actually refresh. I'm like, oh, this ain't good. This is a bad sign. No, it's not your service. Got the blues. Do I have the blues? No. No. Today I'm blues free, man. I'm not feeling the pain of the blues today. I appreciate you for asking though. Some days it does the thing, and I do the thing. Life just kind of it just shit just don't work right in your brain, and I get that. But today I'm doing okay. I'm glad that I'm back. All right, back in black, he said. El Fuego. Snoop OG, evening chat. What's up? I don't know why I called you Snoop. Uh, let's see here. Yeah, we're doing it, man. We're doing it, Alex. We're doing it. Glad to see you guys here. Let's see here. Germany who said, I bought a prefab. It's 43 inches long, 21 deep, 18 high, and the port is 17 high. And I can't do all this math in my head, but let's, on your show, what tuning will it be? Holy crap, man. You want me to do math? So here's my here's my answer to your question. Play download an app to do a sine wave sweep, like from 20 hertz to 80 hertz. All right. And while it's doing that sweep, watch your subwoofer, watch it with your eyeballs. And whenever you see it basically stop moving or get to where it's barely moving at all in the middle of that sweep, that's your port tune. That's your frequency. If you want to know where your port unloads, which is the bottom of your frequency, you can put a piece of material, a piece of toilet paper or something in the port. And while you're going through that bass sweep, you'll notice that toilet paper gets sucked in that port and just vibrate. Whenever you see it get blown out of the port all of a sudden, or blown up in the port, whenever it stops being in the port and it ejects itself or sucks in, that you're below, you're getting out of your port tuning at that point. That's another way to find out where that specific place is. Whenever it pops out of there, that's below your port tuning. Let's see. Ken, you need to explain. Let's go back up and see what Ken said. I want to try to make sure I don't miss anybody's questions. Holy crap, we're going way up here. We're going way back. How far back? Way back. And it goes a little something like this. Hit it. I can't find that. I was looking. Hopefully that helps. Yeah. I can't. I could do the math on it. I'd be pulling up a program called Bass Box. It's called Subbox Pro, the one that I use, and you can figure it out there. But hopefully, I gave you enough information where you can sort that out. Teach a man to fish and all that. Oh yeah, Jay said I had 4 10s under the back seat of an extended cab. Yeah, baby. Yeah, that shit jams, man. I like it. Or record a slow-mo video at very low frequencies, like 10 hertz. Then you can see the subs moving clearly. Bobby Gately does that on every video, every build to verify all subs are properly in phase. The way I check phase, if you want to know if you've got the wires hooked up right, just get a 9-volt battery and connect it to your master wires, the ones that are going to your amp. Connect the red one or the positive one to the positive battery terminal, the negative to the negative, and the sub should pop out. And they should all pop out and do the same thing. If one of them goes in, you have a wiring problem. If they don't pop out, but they go in, then you just got them wired backwards. It really doesn't help. It doesn't hurt anything to wire them backwards. It's mainly make sure that they're all doing the same job. So when you put the positive on the little 9-volt and the negative on the negative, and they go, everything pops out, you're jamming. That's how I test it. Did it saying 24 hertz. Germany said you did the same. Yeah, sure, that's possible. If it's in a vehicle, especially, a lot of times in a vehicle, the vehicle's interior can lower the frequency, and also certain subs can be just can lower the frequency of the box tuning. So the box may be tuned at 30 hertz and you may be seeing 24 hertz. That's the real number, the 24 hertz. But it's because the subs have a really low FS and they're just wanting to get happy at lower frequencies. So they're actually making up the difference. And that's not necessarily going to be your port tuning, but it may be your loudest note. It doesn't have to be at your port tuning. Your loudest note is going to be a combination of your port tuning and the subs, where the sub wants to get loud at. Somewhere between those two, if you're building an SPL box, then you're going to build a box that has a port tuning at the same frequency that the sub wants to get loud at, so you get that peaky one shot, one note wonder that really just busts your head open. Problem with that is it leaves you with a really steep roll off on both sides. So the box sounds like hot shit, but it gets really loud on one note. I usually go the opposite direction. I want a long shelf of awesomeness. That's just my personal thing. Team Chevy said, Maryland showing, why can't that work? And you're awesome. Glad to hear tonight. Jeremy said, thanks. You always answer my questions. God bless you, brother. I do my very best. That's all I can do. I'll answer the best of my ability. And then if I can't, or even if I can, I usually try to send you a little extra tidbit of information somewhere else. Go look over here and get even more information. Learn something new every day. Port tuning. Yeah. Well, I mean, you make assumptions that someone who knows a lot about a specific thing will know a lot about this thing, right? And that's not always the truth. So I have friends that are very knowledgeable about sub enclosures and building sub enclosures, but yet whenever we discovered that, or I mentioned, or something in a video, it mentioned that the subwoofer below, when it gets below port tuning, the sub actually inverts 180 degrees out of phase with the port. He didn't know that. He never thought about that. It was brand new to him. So, there may be information that you guys are all just, you've done it a million times. You built all this stuff. You've done amazing things. But there may be one little tidbit of something that I say that you go, oh, wait a minute, really? Let me check into that. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you guys, I'm trying to plant seeds. I don't want to plant a whole damn tree. I just want to plant a seed. I want you guys to water that seed and feed it and grow it into more amazing things. I just want to plant a seed so you guys can go, even if you don't agree with what I'm saying, if you go to research about what I say, if you research it, then you're going to learn more about the subject matter, right or wrong. You're going to learn more because you're going to be forced to research, to think about it. This is all good. Brain stuff is good. Not doing anything with your brain is how dementia comes along, Jason said, Germany, I have a box about that size of the Q Class 15. My port is very small, 10 to 20 hertz. I guess yours is probably mid-30s. Most of the time, that's a good guess. You can check yourself, play frequencies. Yep, that's what I said. Look where the sub moves the least. Yeah. Let's see here. Fuego. Oh, okay. Oh, Fuego said, the question of the day from the Fuego man is, when a Trunked Under Lithium banger 5K is going to be off back order? That's a beautiful thing. That's a great question. And I have an answer today. Now, I don't have an answer every day, but I have an answer today. Today, this is quote from Brandon at Trunked Under Lithium. He said, Tuesday pallet gets dropped off. Of course, shipment got delayed. So Monday, I'll put back to in stock. Orders will ship later this coming week. For you guys that are here tonight, y'all got to hear it straight from the mouth of the man that owns the company. So tomorrow, he's going to put them back to in stock and start be shipping things off this coming week. So if you guys have been trying to get Trunked Under Lithium, now's the time to jump in there. Because there's going to be a lot of people hitting it, and as you'll tell them how long it's going to take them to run out of stock. So you might want to just sink your teeth in and dig in there, get her done. Stay on top of it. The way the political climate is right now, anything coming from overseas can be delayed significantly, indefinitely even. Cornett said, we're always learning. I've learned so much since Unmasked other live streams. I realize every once in a while that I'm an idiot. Sir, every day I confirm the fact that I am an idiot. And it's like I make it a point to open my mind. I have to intentionally do this because you're people are protective of knowledge. You think you've got your head wrapped around a concept, you're willing to argue with it. And that's unfortunate because whenever you've got 75% of an idea in your head, you're willing to argue that idea. And sometimes that act will reject that. Just doing that will cause you to reject information that could be game changing that's coming to your head, but you're not willing to listen to it. You're going to argue against it. And that mentality is something that I struggle every single day. Every single day, I have to manually turn that off, because by default it turns on. I have to manually shut that off. I see something stupid, and I'm going to call it like I see it. I see someone say something stupid on the internet, and I go, well, that's stupid. Wait a minute. Let me turn this off because I could be wrong, okay? Or I could be partially wrong. Or maybe it is stupid, but there may be something worth listening to in there somewhere. And I don't want to miss that tidbit, that kernel, right? Got to turn that freaking rejection filter off manually all the time, or you're going to miss stuff. Clapback Adam. I make sure I said that right. It come out really good. It just rolled off the tongue. Hey, I have a custom box made for 2 Sundown U10 V2s. Sounds great, but one sub further from the port makes a rattling noise. I took the sub out and everything looks good. Thing is, I run 1 amp per sub. Rattling noise. Okay. My suggestion would be, if you can't pinpoint the noise, play the sub outside of the box and see if it still makes a rattling noise. Even if it's going to be significantly different pitch, it should still make a noise. And those you use can take abuse, so we ain't worried about that. But play it outside the box, see if you still hear the noise. One thing, you could also try switching the subs in position and see if the noise moves. So one's on a different amp, switch the amps, switch the positions. If the noise stays in the same place, then you know could be the amp or it could be the box, something on the box rattling. You've got to switch things and see if the problem switches with the thing. Remove stuff and see if the problem stays, and then switch things and see if the problem switches. Those are the 2 problem-solving paths that I would approach that with. Let's see here. Franco Craig says, so the 10K are going to be in stock? Yes. The 10K are going to be in stock. It's good times, man. Good times. Prepare for awesomeness. When using a two-way passive crossover, does the tweeter and the woofer get 150 watts, or does the crossover split the power? The crossover divides the power, but technically it sends all the power to both. What it does is it sends a different frequency to both. So the crossover acts like the speaker. The crossover becomes the speaker. It's receiving 100% of the power. Okay, the crossover is going to turn some of that power into heat, because that's what any device does when it's converting something. And then it's going to send what's left. It's going to send some signals to the tweeter and some to the mid. The amount of power that they get is going to basically depend on how much of the frequency that they're getting. So the mid, so if you send 100 watts to a crossover, let's say the crossover eats 20% of that as heat, and you've got 80 watts left. Of that 80 watts, whatever the percentage of the frequency is that gets split off to the mid will go to the mid. So, it probably will be close to the 80 watts. Most of that power is going to go to your mid, and very, very small amounts going to go to the tweeter. So it doesn't divide it in half, and it's not a set dividing point. It's dictated by what the crossover is allowing to get through for that driver. If most of the frequency is going to the driver, then most of the power is also going to that driver. But you're always going to sacrifice a chunk to the crossover gods. Also, crossovers can create noise in a system. If you get signal wires running close to a crossover, the crossover itself can cause noise to enter your signal wires. Pro tip. Just a free one there, man. Slipping that one in. Let's see here. Germany. Germany sounds like an 8 cubic foot box. Oh, no. I missed out on what was necessary to understand that statement. W. Clap, did you play a tone and measure the amp's output voltage to verify the amp gains are perfectly synced together? Yeah, you're on top of it. Jason's giving you good advice. Gain matched. What kind of charger do you need for a lithium battery? You need a charger that charges over 13.1 volts. Look, guys. All right, here, now I could probably get into all kind of trouble for this statement. Probably will, but I'm going to make it anyway because you know me. This is what I do. The difference between a charger built for AGMs and a charger built for lithium, LiPo 4 specifically, is that the AGM charger will have a cutoff voltage of, say, 13.5 volts, 14 volts, whereas the lithium charger will have a cutoff voltage of, say, 14.5 or something like that. It's literally that last bit of voltage. That's all it is. It's just voltage. You don't even need a charger. You can charge with a DC power supply. It's just straight freaking electricity. That's all it is. The only difference is that. So your question is, what kind of charger you need for lithium battery? Any charger that'll produce electricity at least a half a volt to a volt over the resting voltage for the battery will charge that battery. It needs to have a little bit more going in than the resting voltage of the battery. That's all there is to it. Any charger will work for that. So any modern charger made for a car battery will work on a LiPo 4. Now, if you're charging LTOs at 16 volt LTO bank, that's a completely different story. You're going to need to buy a specific charger that's designed to charge at that higher voltage, or you're going to need a DC power supply that you can turn the voltage up to that higher voltage. Because you got to get it like half a volt to a volt higher than the resting voltage, or you're not going to be able to charge it. the electricity will just go the other direction. That's what happens. If you put two batteries together, they both have the same voltage, and hook them together, they're not going to do anything. But if one's got a higher voltage than the other one, then they're going to balance out, and that's what a charger is. Germany, who said W? Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, good deal, good deal, good deal. Let's see here. Jason said could be speaker wires rattling. Yep, that's a real good possibility. Wrap them in foam cloth, black back tape. Take the sub out, play it free air. That's what I said. I said eliminate things and see if the problem stays, and also reverse or reorient things and see if the problem moves. Those are the things that I do. Those are my two basic thought processes to sorting something like that out. Okay, so it doesn't make the noise outside the box. Then it still very well could be a speaker wire. Try wrapping those up. Let's see here. Alex, they both get the same power since they play different frequencies. Yeah, yeah. The best way to do it is think of it. Rate your speaker. Rate the speaker for the power that you're going to send to the crossover. Rate your mid-range for that power. That's the key. That really is the key. Your tweeter's only going to end up getting like 5 watts or 10 watts or some crap like that anyway. Tweeters don't get any power. You could hook up a 1,000-watt amplifier to a tweeter, and you're actually putting in like maybe 15 watts is all it's actually going through the damn tweeter. The tweeter itself stops all that noise. Let's see here. Clapback Adam said did that. It does not. Got it. And yep, got that. Picasso W, the Picasso of car audio. Hell yeah. Jerry said, what's your thoughts on a Panasonic 10-inch sub in an enclosed box under the bunk of a Peterbilt with the original head unit, peak power handling around 1,300 watts. Mounting depth is specified as 4.9 inches. Impedance typically 4 ohms. Okay, let me go back and reread this. A 10-inch sub in an enclosed box on the trunk of a peak power with the original head unit. That doesn't matter. Peak power handling. Well, you're going to need an amplifier on that. And peak power is irrelevant. I would say that's probably, it says the peak power handling is 1,300 watts. I would assume 300 watts. I'd be looking for like a 500 watt amp. No, actually, that sub, I would probably be looking for like a smaller than 500 watt amp. I'd say there's a lot better options. And if you're considering something, you need to get a hold of me. We can talk it out, man. It sounds like a mixture of Facebook Marketplace and a credit card and some bad ideas. That's my opinion. Sounds like we need to be talking on the phone before there's the thing happening. Jason said, Fuego, you can use a benchtop power supply. Yep. Or radio controlled hobby charger. Yep. Select the voltage and amperage. The amperage isn't nearly as important. Higher amperage charger works faster. Yeah. Yeah. 10 amps, totally fine. That's funny. I think I just nailed it. Germany said it's about 32, 34 tuning with those dimensions. There you go. So Jason was right. It was in the 30s. Yep. I figured it probably was. Most factory boxes are tuned, good ones, decent ones are tuned like between 32 and 34. Some of the really crappy ones from Alibaba and whatnot are tuned like 39 or 40 or 38. Make you want to punch kittens. So, there you go. Uh, hey, man, hey, not necessarily trash, not necessarily trash. You just got to know how to use the equipment that you're working with. And, you know, if you already got it and it's, we can work with it. But, if you want it, it's not necessarily trash. You can make, I had a set of pile mids and highs that I used forever that sounded fantastic. If you use everything in the right way, in the right case, you can get a lot out of a little, but just know what you're working with and how to get something out of it. It's a whole nother story. Um, Clapback Adams said, I was told maybe using a cock box and a phase matching could work solving issues. It can. The If you use one of those fancy boxes that does the balancing for multiple amplifiers, I've had people tell me that they worked amazing, and I've had other people tell me that they weren't worth spitting on. So your results may vary, and I can't speak on them because I haven't used one. But there's that. Jason said, might be the speaker wire. Yeah, yeah. Sub out invert, put in upside down over the hole, see if it still rattles. Yeah. Change and look for change, and switch and look for switch. Yeah. If charging lithium, I recommend something that can charge individual cells as well as fully assembled. Yeah, it's nice to have the ability to charge individual cells. If you're building a bank, um, it's nice to be able to charge the individuals. So you have cells that are supposed to sit at 3 volts. You can turn around and charge them at like 3.5 or whatever, and charge each cell up and then float them all together at the same time to get them all balanced, topped off to each other, and then assemble your pack. But if you're not building a pack, if you're just charging a lithium bank, you don't need that functionality. Doesn't hurt to have, though. Discounted pro tip awesomeness. I love that. That's great. And Jerry says, I love how I probably nailed it perfectly. Let's see here. All right, guys. All right. So now that I've answered everybody's questions, do y'all have any questions? It's question time. It's question time. Because we got all kind of stuff to talk about. Well, we have a few things to talk about. I'm lying. We don't have all kinds of stuff. I'm a hopeless, pathetic, a member of the human race when it comes to coming up with ideas. Today has been a decent day for ideas, though. So let's see. Jason said a 10-inch in a sealed box in a noisy truck may not have enough output. Yeah, he straight up told you, man. That's the truth. If you, Jason, the Peterbilt comes with the Peterbilt actually comes with a subwoofer installed on the premium trucks. They come with a subwoofer installed back there under the bunk. It's probably the one he's talking about. I think it actually is a Panasonic. It's going to be rated at like 100 watts or 200 watts. And there is an amplifier back there, and it's going to kind of do a thing up to a certain point, but then it kind of falls apart. It's got the problem I have with that setup, I actually am familiar with it now that I think about it. The problem I have with that setup is the frequency roll-off point on those. It doesn't play the low lows very well, and it doesn't play the higher lows very well. It's got a very tiny bandwidth that amplifier will reproduce. If you take and pull that amplifier out and replace it with virtually any amplifier aftermarket of any kind, 100 watts, 150 watts, and put on that sub, it's game changing. It'll completely change what you get out of it. Now, in my buddy's case, he drives slip seats, so his truck will change from every few weeks. He ends up with a different truck, so not an option. I've told him how to deal with it, though. You just need a Bluetooth kit to carry around with you. He's got a good gig though. So his problem, of course, the negative being that whenever he gets out of the truck, he has to tear everything out of the truck, because when he gets back in the truck, it's most likely going to be a different truck. That's the negative for when he comes home. The positive is he can come home when he wants to and stay home as long as he wants to, any length of time, and then go back out when he wants to, and no one's ever going to say a word to him. And that's because of the way they do the trucks. It's a hot seat. As soon as that truck stops moving, as soon as he stops driving it, somebody else can take over. And they keep their trucks moving that way, and all the drivers have as much time off or as little time off as they want. It's a really good system. Just got its trade-offs, right? Let's see here. You the man. So Red Pill, what's up, man? Just wondering, do you know if Carmel uses Hexabase's box building plans, since they both work with Audio Dynamics? No, he has at points in the past. There has been it has happened, but generally no, because he has a world record holding SPL guy there, and Charles, he has had a couple of different world records. He is extremely badass box builder, box designer that works for him and handles all of his box building and box designing needs. So in the past, though, it has happened occasionally, but for the most part, Charles is the man. If you want to get your shit built right, man, go to Carmel. You're not gonna leave unhappy. You're not. If you're in the area and you can, Carmel Car Audio, your shit's gonna be right when you leave. 100%. Yeah, no doubt, dude. He said, I've been out since May. Yeah, well, but that's your own choice, bro. That's not, that's the gorilla behind the wheel made that decision, man. Jason said, I got to get the duck out of here. You know what, Jason? I think you're right, man. You guys have been real. Y'all have been lovely. You've been really lovely. Now be sure and be lovely to your neighbors. Treat everybody the right way. Give your family members a hug, because you never know if tomorrow is going to come. You never know if you're going to get to see them again. Always leave with an I love you and a hug every single time. Peace, my peeps. Let's get Duck out of here.
Subwoofers are getting loud, you can feel the booming sound. Getting ready to go, got it shined up for the show. Power's charging, amps are amping, gonna let the woofers blow. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one goes, and another one goes, and another one bites the dust. We got more at home, another one bites the dust. Eyes are glowing and the amps smoking, subs are cherry red. Let me keep jamming, gotta keep the bass slamming, gonna go hard till they're dead. Full power, gotta let it go, 20 hertz in the floating air. Sparks are flying, voice cords are frying, and the smoke is in the air. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one goes, and another one goes, and another one bites the dust. Hey, we got more at home. Another one bites the dust.